So I'm Cristiano Facanha, Global Director with the Drive to Zero program at CALSTART. And today I'm pleased to introduce you to my colleague Sita Holtslag with the Netherlands Enterprise Agency, operating under the Ministry of Infrastructure and Water Management. So the Netherlands is a leader in the adoption of zero-emission commercial vehicles, and is also currently the chair of the Transport Decarbornisation Alliance, which is a coalition striving to achieve more climate-friendly transport by supportive solutions such as zero-emission commercial vehicles. So Sita, thank you for being here with us today. And to get us started, so what do you consider to be the most effective policies and actions put forward by the government in the Netherlands to support zero-emission commercial vehicles?
Hi, thank you, Cristiano. I'm so glad you guys will have me here. I'm very excited to share a little bit of what we're doing in the Netherlands. So maybe as a bit of context, so within the Netherlands, we have a national climate agreement, which actually sets CO2 reduction targets for 2030 on various topics, and also mobility, and then all different modes and aspects of mobility. And one of them is the logistics one, and that's the one I'm going to focus on, just to let you know kind of the policy part. And so the main climate agreement goals have to do with, for cars, I think that's a nice one to share, even though it's not the logistics one, is that all new cars sold in the Netherlands will be zero emission by 2030 already. So that's quite soon, I think. And then for buses, all new public transport buses that are bought will be zero emission by 2025. So we're actually already in the process of, those are public procurement buses by city governments and contracts. We're actually in the process already of purchasing those. And for city logistics, there's going to be a zone of zero emission logistic vehicles, so that only zero emission vehicles will be allowed to enter with some exemptions in 30 to 40 cities by 2025 also. So that's basically all major cities in the Netherlands, since we're not such a big country, as you may know. And then something else, it's not strictly policy, but it's very Dutch, is what we have is like public-private partnerships and covenants. So we call these green deals or covenants, and these are agreements that aren't legally binding in that way as legislation is, but it's a very powerful instrument that we use to kind of align front runners around a specific topic or a niche. So for logistics, we have 3 of these kind of either green deals or covenants or agreements. One is on waste vehicles, so refuse vehicles. So all refuse vehicles will be zero emission, all cleaning vehicles will be zero emission by 2030. What we call special purpose taxis, I think in the States they would be called school buses. So all the transport that is paid for by public money will also be zero emission by 2025. So these are small kind of buses, smaller buses than the regular buses, and construction and mobile machinery logistics. So these are all kind of not policy legislation per se, but public-private partnerships that are very successful in the Netherlands in a way. And I think one of the strong points in the Netherlands in rolling out zero-emission vehicles, also for passengers, is the charging infrastructure. So there's a very good coordination, national coordination, and it's multi-stakeholder to make sure that charging infrastructure is not an obstacle in rolling out zero-emission vehicles. So both hydrogen and battery electric. So for battery electric, there's this thing called the Nationale Agenda Laadinfrastructuur, which of course you understand. But it's basically a national agenda for charging, and they make very specific roadmaps to ensure, you know, who does what by when, and ensure that all the parties are aligned around that. And there's actually a working group specifically for logistics to make such a roadmap and implementation plan for the Netherlands. And the second is hydrogen. So there's a big interest in the Netherlands for hydrogen as one of the solutions for zero emission trucks. And there will be 50 hydrogen fueling stations by 2025 in the Netherlands, and they will be rolling out in the coming years. So I think that's the policy side. But with policies, I think also come kind of financial incentives that are needed to move things forward. So what we have is a co-funding scheme for innovation in transport specifically. So this is the DKTI, the It's a horrible acronym, but it's ZECVs. And that's in the third round. The third round is being prepared now. So that's where kind of innovation and prototype and groups of vehicles can be co-funded by government money. There's a purchase subsidy for vans coming up. This is very much linked, of course, to the zero emission zones that are also coming up. And that's expected somewhere at the end of this year to be announced. And there's a road pricing that's going to be implemented starting in 2022 for heavy duty vehicles on the road. And the revenue from that, which is expected to be around 90 million, is going to be reinvested in the road freight sector to become zero emission. So that's exciting things that are coming up and that will be announced kind of later this year, what the specifics will be of that.
So which areas would you say the Netherlands would most benefit from international collaboration and initiatives as Drive to Zero? And also, how do you see action in clean commercial vehicles in California and other regions in Europe supporting the Netherlands' objectives to cleaner commercial vehicle fleets?
Yeah, that's super important. So the Netherlands is a really small country, as you know, and European activities in this is essential, is crucial. So we don't have, for example, an automotive industry or a very big automotive industry. So we're very dependent for reaching these goals also on what happens in the global and the European market. So within Europe, there is now the CO2 reduction target that is in place. But within, for example, the ZEV Alliance, so that's the ZEV Policy Lab, which is bringing together kind of the front runner policy learnings from California, the Netherlands, and China. There was a comparison made, and one of the success factors that we saw, and now especially in California, is that besides these CO2 standards, a ZEV mandate is very effective in these other regions. So that's something, you know, that's interesting to see what other front runners are doing in that space. And having these global partnerships to move together this market as a whole, I think is crucial for us to meet our own national deadlines and targets. And both the European coalition there and working together within Europe, but also working together with other front runners. And I think that's where Drive to Zero really, you know, helps us in a way connect all those dots in all those different areas. Definitely.
No, thank you, Sita. Very exciting, very inspirational to see all the action put forward by the Netherlands, and really looking forward to seeing like where you all go next, you know, and work together to accelerate this market as a group of countries and coalitions. So thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
To talk about your plans and progress towards zero emission commercial vehicles. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much.